You love RPGs, I love RPGs, the world loves RPGs, especially on the goddamn Switch. And what else do our sweet Switch watchers enjoy? We bloody love physical games. A pity then that a good chunk of physical RPGs were only made available in Asia or Japan, but some of them do have English, so they're ripe for importing and adding to your physical collection so you can keep forever. Well, until the cartridges rot in about 40 years, but most of us will be dead by then and your kids won't care, so it's fine. Today I'm going to take you through all the RPGs that are only available physically in Japan or Asian regions with English, but also a small section at the end to tell you some that may be exclusive to North America or Europe that you may also want to take a look at. Also, what counts as an RPG? In a world where even Grandma Simulator and Peppa Pig Does Dallas have some kind of RPG mechanics, well, that's up to my discretion, and you can like it or lump it. River City Saga 3 Kingdoms is a very recent action RPG adventure game. The River City Ransom gameplay, but set in the famous Three Kingdom era of Chinese history, it's a match made in heaven. If you check out my review, you'll see that I really enjoyed this game. It's simple but effective as you play as Guan Yu going through a humorous take on the history. You can play in multiplayer with friends or by yourself. You can equip your characters with items as well as level them up, which is essential for getting through some of the tougher opponents here. It's a very unique game that is well worth a look at. Just don't buy the Japanese version, it does not have English. The versions in the description, they do. Atelier Dust Trilogy is one of the premier Switch imports. In fact, it's easily in the top 10 of the most popular of all time. This is a triple pack of JRPGs in the niche but cult classic series. These were originally on the PS3 and provide charming and extensive times with 3 whole and wholesome adventures that mix exploration with crafting and JRPG battling. Due to the giant size of the games, the physical isn't cheap, but it's much better than buying them digitally. This did become out of stock, but earlier this year it was restocked, so grab it before it goes again. Check out my review for more information. The Atelier Mysterious Trilogy, might as well talk about this one now. These are 3 more Atelier JRPGs, in fact older than the Dusk series, but this physical goodness came out afterwards. While I don't think these are quite as good as the Dusk series, they are commendable indeed. This also sold out not so long ago, but did get a restock as well, and you should look into it. Check out my review for more information. Super Robot Wars T, V, X, and 30. Yes, I'm lumping 4 games together here for the sake of saving my time repeating myself. These 4 games are amazing games, strategy RPGs where the anime universes slam together in the crossover to end all crossovers. Yes, the famous faces from many a mecha anime appear here together to fight a big bad enemy. While the gameplay isn't particularly difficult in terms of the strategy, the style is all out amazing. The animations for the attacks will blow you away and you won't be able to wait until you see the next one. It's like playing an actual anime. All 4 are amazing, although if I had to help you choose one, I would go with either T or 30. I think they're slightly better than the other 2, but saying that, you do have to be more careful when you buy T or 30 because some versions don't have English. Make sure you click the links in the description because those are the ones you want. I don't want you buying one that only has Japanese or only has Chinese. It's a lot of money, don't make that mistake, trust me. And by the way, if any of them take your fancy and you want to import them for yourself, then consider checking out the links in the description and the pinned comment. If you click our links and buy something, it also helps support us at the same time, and I thank you ever so much. It really does help the channel more than you can possibly know. Plus, in return for clicking our links, you can get a very nice 5% off any physical item from PlayAsia with our current discount code STEENBOK when checking out. Plus, it's free shipping over $100, at least usually. Our code will run out in about a month or so, so be sure to subscribe and check out my weekly video on Monday for the latest discount code. Brave Dungeon Dark Witch Story is easily the most obscure game on this list because it's one that everyone forgets about since it was only available via a small publisher called B-Side Games on their website in Japan, who are now defunct by the way. This is a double pack of games, a couple of simple RPGs that were originally on the 3DS. Not essential by any means, but certainly more of a collector's item if you can get your hands on it. Dragon Quest 1, 2, and 3 are available physically on the Switch, which is rather weird to say. Honestly, I still struggle to believe this nice little package is available physically in Asia. These are remakes of the NES classics, and my review of them was the first time I had the pleasure of playing them. While they are archaic and some may not like the mobile look with the new art, I found them fine, and they're a great history lesson for those who claim they love JRPGs. Final Fantasy IX is a game that I tried to love as a kid, but I didn't because I was a moron. Replaying on the Switch gave me an eye-opening experience of a total love letter to the Final Fantasy series. It's such a great adventure with fun characters that everyone needs to play. Nobuo Uematsu is almost at the top of his game with this one too, with a beautiful soundtrack. The Switch version includes some game enhancements alongside new visual upgrade. If you're a Final Fantasy fan, grab this for your collection. It was only released physically in Asia and has some really funky box art. Mistover has suddenly become a bit of a fashion piece these days. Gone are the days when everyone saw it as a 6 out of 10 kind of game that wasn't worth an import, to now where everyone is trying to get their hands on it, not wanting to miss out. This is a Darkly RPG, a bit of Darkest Dungeon with more anime twist to it. Why is it so sought after? Well, the game has been eradicated from digital stores and is only available to play via the Switch physical version, which came out in Japan, Hong Kong, and Korea. Physical is the only way to play it. Final Fantasy X and X Part 2 did get a physical release in the West, but it's rubbish. Well, okay, it's not rubbish, but it's nowhere near as good as the Japanese or Asian version, since the Western release only had one game on the cartridge due to money saving on the cartridge size. Asia and Japan actually care about the customer, however, and both games are on the cartridge, no download required, so you get to keep both games forever. In 20 years, when the Switch's servers go down, you'll only have half a game with the Western version. Buy right, buy Japanese. Kemco RPG Selection Volume 1 is a curious collection of 4 super cheap JRPGs. Originally made for mobiles, they are not the most essential of JRPG imports, but they are a curiosity. Interestingly, the PS4 got about 7 or 8 volumes of this kind of thing, but it seems due to low demand for the Switch version, that scuppered any future releases. Well, except for Kemco RPG Omnibus, which contains 4 different JRPGs. This was released in Asian regions, not actually in Japan, and is slightly more obscure and often found quite a bit cheaper, although definitely not essential, but one not to miss if you want to hoover up all the physical JRPGs. Chrono Cross Radical Dreamers Edition is officially the most popular Switch import of all time, at least according to my limited analytics. Yes, you guys are fiends for the return of this unfairly compared JRPG. Yes, having the expectations of Chrono Trigger on its shoulders did it no favors. This is a very different beast. If you check out my review, you'll see I enjoyed it very much playing it for the first time. It's a complex, bewildering release that I'm very happy is available physically in Asian regions. It's one hell of an adventure that you won't forget anytime soon. Plus, it comes with a very obscure adventure game called Radical Dreamers, which was once thought lost to time, and it is actually quite good. Check out my review over on VN Paradise. Saga Frontier is an absolutely great JRPG, an idiosyncratic time as you'll see when we get to the rest of the series in this list, but I truly believe this is the best of the bunch of them. It has a wonderfully retro pre-rendered backgrounds, incredible music, and an absolutely zany plotline that follows so many different characters. You can choose whose storyline you want to do first, but they all sort of interweave with each other and you can recruit lots of allies in your fight. While it shares many mechanics with the other games in the Saga series, of those on the Switch, this one stands out the most. Big personality, big ideas, not perfect execution, but it 100% needs to be experienced. There's also a reason it's the second most popular import of all time. Aria Chronicle is a fun JRPG, obviously looking a bit different than your usual affair, a bit more indie in style. Many people, mostly myself, have compared this to a mix of Final Fantasy and Darkest Dungeon. Exploring dungeons is supposedly quite a challenge, but not as much as the latter game. While it initially sold well, this has been sold out for quite a while now with no sign of it coming back in stock. But follow me on Twitter or join our Discord, where I'll be sure to let people know if it pops up back again. World of Final Fantasy Maxima was one of the very early import exclusives that many people overlook since it didn't even get a release in Japan or Hong Kong, but only in Southeast Asia, and it sold out pretty quickly. Perhaps for a couple of years it was difficult to get your hands on it. Well, not too long ago this did get a restock, so you should be able to grab it right now. This is a lovely celebration of the Final Fantasy franchise, bringing back well-loved characters and monsters, and you can capture them as well. Ignore the slightly weird art style and you've got yourself a very great game. Grandia HD Collection is an amazing double pack of classic JRPGs, Grandia 1 and 2 in one very nice package. This was originally released by a limited run in North America, but this Asian release came out afterwards and is way more accessible, that's for sure. Plus it has way better box art that incorporates both games together, unlike limited run. Unfortunately, it's not complete on cart, the Asian version. You can download an update, which is not essential, but still a pity. Grandia 1 and 2 are both great games, fantastic adventures like the good old days. I would say that this is an essential import if you missed limited run's version. Eternal Radiance was released by One Print Games, an Asian low-print company. This is a mixture of visual novel-style storytelling with really nice artwork and some simple action RPG gameplay. That's a bit on the hack and slash side of things. While it's certainly a bit janky, I did enjoy the adventure with Celeste and her companions. Not essential by any means, but still a nice time, especially if you enjoy visual novels. One Print Games website has a special edition, but there's also a more standard edition available with the links in the description. SD Gundam G-Generation Cross-Rays and SD Gundam G-Generation Cross-Rays Platinum Edition are two releases of the same game, although the Platinum Edition is the one that you're going to want since it's basically a Game of the Year edition with the DLC, and the price isn't ridiculous either. So yeah, here we have another strategy RPG with anime mechs from Bandai, and while I don't think it's as epic as the Super Robot Wars series since it lacks the epic animations, it's still a really good time, packed to the brim with mecha content, and this one should challenge you a little bit more. You actually have to think. SD Gundam G-Generation Genesis is an older SD Gundam release, but released physically in English later on. While it provides the same kind of excellent content, this one was sadly overlooked, probably because its only English version was in Southeast Asia, linked in the description. Expect more of the same, and give this one a chance. I think it should be added to your collection if you're into strategy RPGs. Taiko no Tatsujin RPG Adventure. No, you've not died and gone to heaven. Yes, this is a real thing. Yes, they combine the addictive happy drumming gameplay of the Taiko games with a breezy, light JRPG adventure. And yes, that is you currently inserting your credit card into the floppy disk slot. Here you get two full-fat Taiko games, both of which have the normal arcade-style drumming gameplay alongside two full-fat adventures with random battles, NPCs, the lot. I'm almost ashamed this wasn't as popular as I thought it would be. Just make sure you don't get the Chinese version, as that does not have English, but the two linked in the description do. Empire of Angels 4 is a strategy RPG set in a world where there are only anime babes. Yeah, I just heard you clicking the buy button. This is a Play Asia exclusive release that was sold out, but there's also a Chinese cover version that does have English. Now, don't let looks fool you, this is no kiddie strategy game, as the levels are challenging and well designed. I was expecting something rather shallow in my review, but ended up being surprised at how much thought was put into it. Obviously the production value could have been higher, but still a good game. Don't miss out on the Chinese restock. World Neverland is a travesty of a game pretty much. It's one of those where you have a second life. With awful production value and shallow gameplay for everything, it's only worth it for those who want to, have every RPG on the Switch, of which this barely fits with only slight RPG mechanics and battles. 7 Pirates H is a big booby spectacular. Here you play as a pirate on the search for treasure. You'll gather big busty allies along the way for some very commendable JRPG turn-based battling. While the story might be complete guffage, the gameplay is surprisingly solid. You can fiddle and massage boobs with the touchscreen, which affects the stats of the girls. It has to be seen to be believed, so go watch my review. It is a good game, nice production value into the character models of course, a very nice import for pervs of all ages, only available on Play Asia. Go grab it, you dirty dogs. Dungeon Encounters is a great distillation of the dungeon crawling RPG genre. Made by Square Enix via an all-star team of veterans, this is void of all the fluff, just keeping it to what makes the genre great in terms of the gameplay. It's not a big budget release, as you can see, more like a passion project with minimal graphics and pizzazz, but if you like dungeon crawling gameplay, you'll definitely enjoy this one, I am sure. This was only released physically in Southeast Asia, with English of course. Katana Kami is another dungeon-crawling action RPG in the way of the Samurai series, more like a spin-off as you venture into dungeons to save the blacksmith's daughter. It has a bit of Moonlighter about it as you loot the dungeons in the night, while during the day you take care of the store as such. It's a big game, plenty of content and quite brutal action. Definitely want to grab a hold of if you like dungeon looters. Ultra Kaiju Monster Rancher is an upcoming release, a monster raising RPG as per the Monster Rancher series, but now they mixed it in with the kaiju genre, with giant monsters battling it out in fairly simplistic combat, but where these games work is in the training and taking care of the monsters, fusing them together, making the best one possible. There's also the unique monster generating technique. Instead of CDs like the original games, here you will use NFCs. No, not NFTs, NFCs. Something like Amiibo, where you scan them in and then you get a new monster. I 100% cannot wait for this one. Mushroom Forest is a super weird game. Actually, it's 3 games in one. It starts off as a little adventure game before developing into 2 dungeon crawling JRPGs with increasing difficulty. It's peculiar, weird, and it's not going to be for everyone. And oh yeah, this game has been long sold out, so good luck grabbing a copy if you're curious about it. Check out my review for more information. Romancing Saga 2 is a long-awaited physical release of a game that came out digitally ages ago on the Switch. Romancing Saga 2 is one of the many Saga games on the Switch, perhaps not the most essential out of the lot of them, but it's what really kicked off the series in Japan. Yes, in Japan, Saga was a huge series. Here, 7 heroes gather together in this non-linear JRPG where many people will have a different experience when they play, with a free-flowing scenario system that the series is famous for. The box art, well, that is a piece of artwork. Absolutely gorgeous and essential for that alone. Dungeon & Gravestone is a mystery dungeon style game, a super obscure RPG that has many a mystery to unfold in its 100 floors. I reviewed this, and even after I completed it, I still had tons of questions, which actually made me nostalgic for the days where you had to work things out for yourself. It's not essential, but definitely much better than I originally anticipated. Check out my review for more information on this. I Am Setsuna is a budgeted JRPG, the debut release from Tokyo RPG Factory, and it's probably still their best release to this day. It was a launch title in Japan and thus became the first ever import exclusive with English on the cartridge. It was a nice start to the Switch's life. Not essential, but it gives a nice experience with a solid story and characters, trying to emulate the Chrono Trigger's battle system, and it has lovely music to boot. Legend of Mana Remastered is one of the most essential imports of all time in my humble opinion. This is an absolutely glorious action RPG with the Mana series, and is easily one of the most interesting and gorgeous releases to grace the Switch. A remake of a PS1 classic, this is also a game full of secrets, a non-linear story where everyone who plays will get a different experience of some kind. I highly recommend you check out my review, or just buy the game anyway, because it's one of the best imports you can get, full stop. Romancing Saga 3 is an interesting import, primarily due to the fact there are 2 different versions. A good few years ago, Southeast Asia got a lovely release, some interesting box art to mimic the SNES box. It was quite a popular release, although perhaps a bit pricey. Well, not long ago, there was another physical release, this time in Hong Kong and Korea, with some utterly gorgeous artwork and slightly cheaper price. But it is worth keeping in mind that this newer release uses a smaller cartridge, and so the game is slightly compressed compared to the first release. It's not much, but it is noticeable, so it's your choice. Either way, just like Romancing Saga 2, this is more of the same classic JRPG goodness. Quest of Dungeons is a simple dungeon crawling RPG, pretty chill, uncomplicated time that you can lose a few hours to here and there. You have different job types, each of which plays very differently from each other, a super obscure release, only available in Southeast Asia. RPG Time: The Legend of Wright is an upcoming RPG genre mix which has instantly won my heart, well, just because look at it, it's glorious, hand-drawn artwork and a sketchbook-like world. I don't know if the game is good, but I'm sold on it, and October can't come quick enough for the physical release. It's so unique, and I know it's going to bring a lot of nostalgia with childhood adventure. I don't know if this game is getting a Western physical release, there's been no mention of it, but just grab the Japanese version, either in the standard or collector's edition. Genuinely cannot wait for it. Chocobo's Mystery Dungeon is a great introduction to the Mystery Dungeon universe. It's tough but approachable, unlike some other more hardcore entries. I think this game has a lot of charm as you control a little chocobo, exploring little dungeons with job classes like a knight and white mage. In the Switch version, you can also recruit monsters to go alongside you in your adventure. Very underrated game in my opinion. Grab it if you want to try and get into the genre. Citizens Unite Earth Cross Space is a double pack of humor-filled RPGs. I say double pack, they were originally 2 separate games, but here they are ingeniously melded together into one narrative. You can switch between the 2 different games at any time, and they're now connected by a brand new side quest. If you enjoy Earthbound and the Mario and Luigi RPGs, then I'm pretty sure you'll get a good kick out of this one. Sure, Limited Run handled the North American version, but if you missed that, grab the Japanese version for sure. Shiren the Wanderer is an all-time classic in my opinion. The Mystery Dungeon Grandad is here on the Switch. I love this series, although it is pretty hardcore, not for the faint of heart. If you're new to the genre, stick with the Chocobo one or maybe the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, then give this one a try to see if it gels with you. This was handled by Limited Run in North America, but if you missed it, grab this Japanese version. Omega Labyrinth Life is another naughty release on the Switch. It's another Mystery Dungeon style dungeon crawler, but this time you get to tickle girls until they squirt. Yes, that's a thing. It's ludicrous and rather good. I did enjoy it for my review. Remember, don't buy the Japanese version, that does not have English. Buy the Asian version, that one does. But sadly, that's been sold out for ages. Long time ago. Fingers crossed it will come back one day. Love Esquire is a hodgepodge of genres. It's a visual novel mixed in with a dating sim with a small dash of JRPG battles. Yes, this is a very basic, loose JRPG, but it is essential for completing the game. Here you basically want to get laid before you're shipped off to war, probably to your death. So you want to hit on girls around town, giving them gifts, talking with them, having unique events, and maybe, if you're really good, get all the girls with you. You have to fight your way through hordes of monsters in simple but humorous battles, and this is a PlayAsia exclusive. It was initially sold out but did get a reprint rather recently, so grab it while you can. Moro Crystal H got a Japanese and Hong Kong release, but neither of those had English, but good old PlayAsia and East Asia Soft came to the rescue with their exclusive English release. This is a saucy dungeon crawler, very highly recommended for both its naughtiness as well as its gameplay, which unlike most other risque games is actually rather good. If you like old school dungeon crawlers like Etrian Odyssey but with more boobs and animals that look like cocks, then this is great. It's both fun, entertaining and challenging. There was a collector's edition but that sold out ages ago, but the standard edition is still readily available and it's one of the most popular imports of all time because you're a bunch of perverts and I like ya. Saga Scarlet Grace Ambitions is the final proper Saga game that we've had so far, the most recent one to get a physical release on the Switch. The Japanese version was released ages ago but never had English, but Hong Kong came to save the day with a release earlier this year. This was a Vita game, a more modern style Saga game in full 3D, but still retaining the idiosyncratic vibe that the series is known for, with different stories for different people. It also sort of has an open world, non-linear nature to the world map, where you can go pretty much anywhere unrestricted, although that may not be wise to do so. I haven't actually had the chance to play this one yet, but it's definitely high on my priority list, so yeah, make sure you grab the correct physical, use the links in the description. I don't want you buying the wrong one. Demon Gaze Extra is an interesting release since the Asian physical release will have English if you download an update. And while it is still exclusive to the region, I've heard very strong rumors about it releasing in the West via Red Art Games. It's not official at the time of writing this, but I've been assured that it's going to happen at some point, so maybe hold on a little bit longer if you want this fun dungeon crawler. And that's it for the true exclusives in Japan and Asia, but I do want to give some nods to a few games that may have released in Europe, but not North America, and vice versa. So they are imports technically for half of you watching, and I won't spend long on them, just quickly go over some that you may want to look at if you're an RPG fan. Quick mentions to Dot Hack GU Last Recode, released in North America, but only on Bandai's web store. Not available at retail as far as I'm aware, and Europe never got it, but you should want it because it's 3 JRPGs in one package. Asia and Japan got a release with English, definitely worth importing if you're in Europe. Final Fantasy VII and 8 Remastered was one of the best imports of all time a few years back. It was definitely in the top 5 in terms of sales, but it lost ground quite quickly when a European release came about a few years down the line. Still, if you're in North America, grab it, 2 wonderful JRPGs in one. Now, Europe got 2 Sword Art Online physical releases, Sword Art Online Hollow Realization and Fatal Bullet. I'm not going to claim to know much about these releases since I have no idea about the series, but RPG fans will probably want to take a gander, I am sure. I should probably pick these 2 up at some point and see what they're all about. And the last one I'll mention, Kowloon High School Chronicle. I could go on, but really most of you aren't still watching anyways, but this one, I was happy to pick up. It's an old school dungeon crawler, originally a PS2 game, and it has some deliciously retro story segments from the era when it was a Japanese exclusive. I have this in the UK rather than where I am right now, but I can't wait to give it a try. It looks right up my alley, and if you're in North America, then you might want to pick it up too, because it only released in Europe. And there we go, a quick look, RPGs only available in Japan and Asia physically with English. Please consider clicking the links in the description to buy them and help support Switchwatch at the same time. Don't forget to subscribe to keep up to date with our latest discount code. Special thanks to our executive producers Dane Wilkinson, God of Resin, Boombox, Brent McLean, Jonathan Rumor, Santa Tartaruga, Alexander Cato, JCross7776, Elissa, Punky Dooster, Cartoon Soren, Robotech, Z, Raven Knight, Thorn Metal Luna, Parsnip Coffee, Isa, They, Mental Traveler, Grant Cert, Viz, Jennifer M, Instacritic, Precision Plague, and Kadacha. Plus you. Yeah, you watching right now. If you watched all the way through, give me a sword emoji in the comments in honor of the time-honored RPG tool. Go check out some of our other stuff. We've got a lot of things. Physical releases every Monday, digital bargains once sometimes, and check out my brand new channel, A Bit More Jordan, for a lot more me. Take care.